Hello and welcome to this special edition of our Facebook chat, our second one here in April. For those of you that are aware of our typical Facebook chat, of course, it's the third week of every month, and we had that last week. Well, this week we're conducting a special Facebook chat because we wanted to be able to reach out to our drivers, specifically this time, our intermodal drivers. And with that in mind, you'll see next to me, I have Richard Chandler, the VP of Intermodal Operations. And of course, a face and name that you recognize, Tammy Grunart, joining us here on camera as well. But Richard has been with us since 2005. Again, prior to Intermodal, you probably may not have known him, but he started out on Van Truckload out in Charlotte as the ops manager, moved into the DO role in Charlotte, and then made the move here to Green Bay as an RVP, and then transitioned last year into the Intermodal Operations VP role. So welcome, Richard. I believe this is your first time on Facebook chat.
Well, for Intermodal, it is. Okay. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So there was a time before where you were on.
There was.
Okay. Yeah. So my memory is short, so I apologize for that. But
no problem.
The reason for the chat here today is we were trying to identify the best way to get in front of our intermodal drivers. And so this is one of the venues that Richard had suggested. And so we are going to use this to share information with you, specifically our next gen pay design changes. And so with that, we have to be careful what we share because this is a public forum. So that's always something we have to be aware of. And also, we're not going to get into details specific to each driver because that's a conversation that's going to happen between them and their DTL or their ops manager, their ops leadership, as it appropriately should be placed there. But we are going to share information with you, get things started, and then from there, field some questions that you have. And again, to the extent that we can answer them in this forum, we will. If there's follow-up, we'll take those follow-ups and do that as well and follow up with you from based on your driver number, name and number, power number, whatever the case may be, and we'll go from there. But without further ado, we'll get into what we're here for. And so over the past year and a half or so, we've been talking about different this pay design change, and as I mentioned last week in the traditional Facebook chat, we've had a small army of folks, as I referred to it, in the background, whether it's the pay leads, support folks, tech folks, operations leadership, corporate leadership, just really coming together to figure out the best approach to this pay change. And so with that in mind, Richard, if you can start by just telling us kind of what led to this pay design change.
Yeah, great lead-in question. I mean, I think first it really started with us listening to the drivers. I mean, period. We really had to listen to the drivers, and as we had our engagements out in the field, we had associated engagement survey feedback. I mean, we consistently kept coming back to these different themes that drivers were raising as it relates to concerns around their pay.
Sure.
Things like paycheck consistency,
right?
Paycheck variability. Not being paid for every minute that they're on duty.
Right.
Specifically in intermodal, you have shipment pay variability, those kind of things. And then ultimately, probably the most painful for us to hear was that our experienced drivers, our long tenure drivers, didn't feel like we really appreciated their longevity. So as we started to compartmentalize all that feedback, and then you start thinking about, how are we really paying our drivers? And, there's not too many professions in the United States that's more reliant on hours than that of a professional truck driver.
Absolutely.
But how do we pay our drivers typically?
Right.
By miles, right?
Right.
So we started thinking a little bit differently about that. Instead of looking at our driver associates as, driver associates who are confined by a specific amount of hours that they can work, why don't we start looking at our driver associates as hourly associates who happen to drive?
Right.
That was the impetus behind the change.
Yeah, and I've been out in the field with you, and I heard many of those concerns as you were interacting with the intermodal drivers out there, getting to know them as the new VP, and certainly heard those. My group, the social relations group, out there in the field, again, hearing those things, right?
Yeah.
So the consistency of it, or lack of consistency of it, the delays, right? I'm at a shipper, I'm waiting, I'm at a consignee waiting, all those kind of pain points for them.
All those things they can't, influence on their own. I mean, they weren't being fully compensated for that, and we felt they had to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as far as how did the concept of simplicity and predictability factor into this change?
Yeah, when you look at a lot of different pay packages, not just the one that we have, but a lot of them out there in the industry, In some cases, you're looking at 4 pages worth of content to be able to explain how you get paid.
Right.
So that naturally brings up a lot of skepticism for drivers. So, we had to think about something that was going to be very simplistic, very easy to consume and understand, which leads to transparency. And that's exactly what we came up with a predominantly hourly pay structure.
Okay.
Where we're compensating for all hours now.
Yeah, the simplicity piece, the consistency piece, definitely something we wanted to focus on. So what's changing in this next gen pay structure? What's going on? At a high level, how would you describe it?
Well, first of all, from an intermodal perspective, miles, we're not going to be counted in compensation structure anymore. It's going to be 100% hourly. So we're going to be compensating for time on line 4, time on line 3. We're going to make shipment pay consistent, so there's not going to be any more variability between.
If I have a chassis and empty.
A shipment is a shipment, and it gets paid the same way. Because the way we think about it, drivers don't control the dispatch that they receive.
Right.
They're accountable for being efficient under that dispatch, but they don't control it. So there shouldn't be a variability in what type of pay that they get for the shipment that we give them.
Right.
So there's consistent shipment pay, and the one I'm really excited about is the longevity pay.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about a driver who's been with us for at least a year. So for every year, they're with us with the precondition, the only precondition being that they're here for a year. The driver gets 3% on their gross at the end of the year. So the time frame goes from 1 December through 30 November, and whatever the driver did during the span of that time, they get 3% on their gross that pays out no later than the 15th of December. So think about no Christmas on credit anymore.
Right? Awesome.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. So not to get into specific rates again, because we can't, but there is a difference between line 3 and line 4. And again, we're on social media. We're hearing from drivers through social media, and some of the concerns shared were, kind of certain types of drivers would be rewarded because of the pay change. I don't think that's going to take place.
No, but I think I'm assessing where the question is coming from, and to be straightforward, there is a distinction between lines 3 and line 4,
right?
Because we look at line 4 as being a shock absorber,
right?
Until the driver can get back on line 3.
Yeah.
That's really how we think about it. Because I don't think drivers want to sit, on line 4. They drove. They came to this profession because they want to drive. They want to keep moving.
Right.
We want them to be moving as well. So think about line 4 is us recognizing the time that they're not able to get, on line 3, but we reward the line 3 hours by the compensation that we have with line 3 hourly pay.
Incenting that productivity,
Absolutely.
Right? But as you said, that buffer against the stuff they don't control,
right?
Which we again hear over and over again, right?
Exactly.
And so how did we calculate line 3 compensation? What went into that? What were those specifics?
So it starts with the driver's experience, the amount of time that they've been with us, the tenure. We also factored in the geography that they operate in, the work configuration that they operate in, and then also the gross pay. And that gross pay has a lot of elements in it. You think about, drivers who work extra days. Okay, that's factored in. You think about the performance pay that we had and how performance pay influenced annual increases. All that was factored in the line 3 compensation.
Yeah. Okay. And again, addresses some of those things that we've heard from drivers, the longevity piece, again, I'm maxed out. So the bonus, the 3%, all those things will help our drivers.
Right. And then let me also say there's no cap on that 3%. So there's no high-end limit on how much you're able to make. The consistent things is 3%, but what you make from a growth standpoint is all on you. There's no cap with it.
Yeah. So a driver that typically works the 6th day comes in and helps us all the time. Obviously, again, that's going to build up that.
They are maximizing that 3% at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
So there's a specific question right around that from Chris, wanting to know about jet set and if there's a difference for them being out because they're out away from home for 3 weeks or more. Does that apply for those drivers? Is there any concessions for that group?
Well, they'll fall under our regional pay package, which definitely has a more impact on line 3 than our local.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So will all drivers get shipment pay?
No.
Okay.
So the regional drivers don't get shipment pay, and there's a good reason for that. Because if you think about the work that regional drivers do, they're out longer. They run longer length of haul. They don't run as many shipments as their daily time at home with local counterparts. So as a result, it made more sense and it made more business or economic sense for the driver
Right.
if we bake more into their line 3 than trying to put some money in the shipment pay when you can have a much better, earnings impact for the driver if you put it on line 3.
Yeah. So that goes along with what Chris was just asking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Pam Nanny Carroll is asking about kind of that lump sum payment that you get the 3%. She's thinking taxes is going to eat up a good portion of that as a bonus.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, Carol?
Yeah, Pam. Her name is
Pam?
Pam. Pam
Okay.
Nanny Carroll is her full.
Okay. Thanks for
Facebook.
that question, Pam. Unfortunately, we cannot duck Uncle Sam. Everybody has to pay the taxes, but
Yep.
it will pay out in a separate check than your weekly settlement statement.
Okay.
But yes, it will be taxed. But again, that the more you make on the gross, the more that line 3 is going. So any tax on X, if it's a higher X, you're going to get that line 3
Right.
going a lot more. I mean that 3% being a lot much more impactful.
And on longevity pay, Rex Lindsay is asking, does longevity pay go for all modes of hauling any load, regardless of, he's asking, and I don't know if you're going to know the answer to this, tanker, van, intermodal, as far as the next gen pay, is it going to apply to all for longevity pay? Do we know the answer to that?
It's unique to intermodal right now, but I will
Okay.
say the other service offerings, because intermodal is going first,
Yep.
So the other service offerings are still, finalizing what that, the last few remnants of their package, but I know what they're looking at is going to be value added for the drivers.
Awesome. So more to come on that.
Right.
So going along the lines, it's like the drivers are reading the script, but will all drivers get longevity pay? Intermodal drivers.
Okay.
Will all intermodal drivers get longevity pay?
So if you're here for a year, so if your anniversary, 1 year anniversary falls on 30 December, then you made the cut, and then you will get an annual, a longevity bonus for the end of this year. The only precondition is that you have to be here for a
For
year.
1 year.
Right. Okay. And when will drivers find out about their specific numbers, their specific rates?
So drivers should already be getting schedules from their DTLs, and the way we're implementing this, we're going to start with the West Coast,
right.
And that's going to be on the 15th of May, and there's going to be a 3-week gap between the West Coast and the next 3 waves that are going through. So by the end of June, everyone in intermodal is going to be in this next generation pay package. So you're going to find out your specific rates in one-on-one discussions with your driver team leader. And that's going to happen approximately a week before the go live.
Okay.
So you should be getting the schedules for those now. So as you're getting your schedules back from the DTLs, you should know exactly when you're going to be having that one-on-one discussion.
And we'll have folks out in the field as well in support of this, correct?
Yeah, actually, because really this the DTLs and predominantly the DTLs are going to be having the conversations with the drivers, but we are going to be bringing folks from Green Bay down about a month after the implementation goes in, because we do want to stay close to the drivers.
Right.
We want to maintain sustained close contact,
Yeah.
make sure that what we believe is happening and all the work we've done behind the scenes to make sure it does happen actually takes place. And we're interested in hearing how the drivers feel about it.
Right.
So there'll be a contingent of folks that go out approximately 1 wave or 1 month after each
Right.
wave gets implemented.
Sure.
And we're anxious to hear your feedback.
Well, and that's a month worth of work in the new design,
Right,
and so then we can come back. They have a good understanding of it,
Right.
and then we sit down with them and say, okay, here's what we said, and what are you seeing, and how is it translating for you as a driver?
That's the exact approach.
Okay.
So with those one-on-one conversations they have with their leader, Andre Bryant has a question.
Mhm.
How much is that hourly pay going to be? And I would imagine that's
Yeah.
going to happen during that discussion.
Absolutely. And Andre, I appreciate the question, but you're going to have a one-on-one discussion with your DTL, and they're going to go through your line 3, your line 4, your shipment pay from the previous year, and they're going to put that in the new pay package. So you can see side by side.
Yep.
Here's the impact of this package. And Andre, I believe you're going to be pleasantly surprised too. So looking forward to what your reaction is going to be.
Well, we have a little practice with this as well from pay changes, specifically in the West Coast and California, where we've used that same model, where we compare, previous year,
Right.
what's going to happen in the new pay package and what that translates to. And again, to your point, I think they're going to be pleasantly
You know,
surprised.
one more thing on that, Robert. I mean, because I know the drivers are anxious and want to get that rate, but we'd be doing them a disservice if we didn't take the time, to have this one-on-one discussion with them, because it's a different pay package. It's
Right.
different from what they're used to.
Right.
It's not mileage based. So, rates without context don't really give them the full appreciation for the upside of this program.
Right. Absolutely. Well, we've kind of gone through, the last one was, when will this change go live? But you've already touched on that as well. So do we have questions queued up?
I've got two questions, actually. They're both around overtime. So Chris Hawaii Basa asks, will there be overtime? And Thaddeus Morton said, since we're going hourly, is there any over 40 incentive?
Okay.
So both around that overtime.
Yeah. So I'll start by saying that all hours are going to be compensated. So, if you have up to 14 hours you can work in a day, you'll be getting compensation for all 14 hours. Now, when I think about overtime, I'm thinking about time that's extra, beyond what your normal schedule is. So when I think about, the opportunity for you to run an extra day,
Yep.
you're still going to get that extra day compensation, plus all the, the hours and shipment pay that go along with that work that you did for that day. So that's, in my opinion, that's overtime compensation.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have anything that says after 40 hours, you're going to get this much more, except what you naturally work beyond those 40 hours and the extra day incentive that you get to go along with that extra work. So,
okay. Manolo Gonzalez is asking, for drivers that have been maxed out on the pay scale for years now, will there be any yearly raises?
Well, there are automatic annual increases, based up to the max range associated with the with the scale.
Mm-hmm.
But every position has a max, and then we continue to assess. Is it something that we need to move that max beyond?
Right.
Given the the cost of living in particular areas and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you the one thing that does not get capped or is not limited is that longevity pay.
Okay.
So that's going to be there every year thereafter. But the range, there's still a range there. If that's the gist of the question.
Yes, I think it was. Chris Hawaii Bisa has another question. Is there going to be a load per week bonus? So an example, 5 loads get you $500, 10 loads get you $1,000, and so on and so forth. So a tiered bonus is what he's asking about.
I think that falls into the 3%, right? Because at the end of it, that's kind of what we're trying to incent, is not only line 3 time, but also that 3% at the end of the year.
Right.
I don't know if there's any discussion around that.
Yeah, I mean that is where you would see the impact of it. But outside of that, I mean, you're going to get your line 3 compensation, you're going to get your line 4 compensation, and you're in a non-regional config, you're going to get that shipment pay.
Fantastic. Kevin Coker has a TE question. If you're a TE, is the gross broken up from your line haul and training pay?
Well, first I'm going to say, if you're a TE, talk to some other people, because we need more of you. Because when we think about this pay package, we fully expect that there's going to be a bounty of activity for folks who want to come on board, and we're more than happy to accept them. So we're going to need every TE that we can get our hands on.
Well, Kevin's a van truckload TE out of Nashville, and a million miler, and
okay.
So again, it's not going to be an apples to apples kind of comparison, intermodal versus van truckload. Yeah. But those are also details that the other pay team is working through, Kevin, and information that will be shared with you. Obviously, we're thinking about our training engineers. We don't want to disincent them in any way, because obviously we value what you do. We need more of you, as you've heard in previous Facebook chats, Kevin. And so clearly that's something that we're considering, and something that we don't want to impact in a negative way.
Yeah, and just for that matter, no one is getting de-incented in this program, and especially not our TEs. Yeah. So yeah, the TEs are going to be getting their all-in hourly compensation. No differentiation between lines 3 and 4. It's going to be all in because of the scope of the work that they're doing. But I'll also say that when a TE is not training, then that TE will fall into the normal pay category for the configuration that he or she's running in.
Right. Leonard Straw is asking about the criteria that you're going to use to base your pay package on, and you covered that already, but it might be worth repeating.
Yeah. So again, the thing that's going to change is line 3. Line 4 is going to be consistent. Shipment pay is going to be consistent, but line 3 is based on your experience level. It's based on the longevity you've had with the organization, the geography that you run in. It's based on the work configuration that you're in, and also the gross pay that you receive.
Okay.
All that factors into line 3.
Right.
Chris Hawaii Bisa has another question. Will it update on Compass daily like it does now? So can we keep track of what we do on a regular basis, on a daily basis?
Yes, there's going to be an estimator calculator that drivers will be able to see, and as soon as a shipment is actualized, and the driver actualizes that shipment has been complete, it's going to show up on that estimator.
That's
and
fantastic.
also the hours that the driver ran from the previous day is going to show up there as well. So week to date, the driver's going to have a really good feel for how they're progressing throughout the week.
See, Steve Platt has a question.
Mhm.
He only worked 8 months last year because of an approved absence. How is that going to affect his pay?
Yeah, we're not going to count or we haven't counted the stuff that when a driver was not in a working status.
Okay.
So all that's not going to negatively impact you at all, Steve.
Fantastic.
Is that Steve from Jersey?
It is. Yep.
Hey, good seeing you, Steve.
Yeah. Since this is a TE question, since Schneider needs more TEs, would you consider lowering the 9-month experience requirement?
We will note that. So our support team is here behind the scenes, and we're going to note that. When we have these sessions, we take the information, we capture it all, and we share it with all the appropriate individuals, whether it's safety training, whether it's leadership pay, whatever the case may be, comp and benefits. So we will take that and we will share that. And that is definitely something we can absolutely consider and discuss. I don't know where it'll go from there, but we will absolutely forward that through, share that. And that team is always open to suggestions you have. And they're always good about providing perspective on why we won't do something. And then I, in turn, will share that feedback with you. So good question. We will take that and run with it, and we'll get back with you.
Bobby Sammons has a question. If you're a first-year driver, how are you going to compare last year and base pay off of that? It seems a bit unfair since I'm tracking to do $104,000 this year, and I have nothing to base off of last year.
So the base pay is the line 3 is based on the experience level, based on your all the stuff we talked about before. So I won't go through that piece again. But if you've been here for a year, then there's a year's worth of work that we can draw from.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, if you've been here for under a year, then we're taking the quarter, that you ran,
Oh, that makes sense.
and we're applying that
Yep.
and annualizing that. So we're getting the full picture, for the actual work that you did based on the time that you were here.
So I just want to call out, again, the pay package that Richard is speaking of is an intermodal specific pay package. So we have a mixed group here, obviously with Kevin and others that are on. So this is not specific to VTL. This is not specific to bulk. Those are different packages, different approaches, different work, right? So different work, different impacts in terms of what you do and where you go. And so this is specific to intermodal only.
Manolo Gonzalez is asking about days they're sent home early due to train delays. Is there going to be any compensation for that? Daily rate pay?
Yeah. I appreciate that question, Manolo. First, I would say that there's a targeted effort to make sure that no driver is sent home early. I mean, because no one benefits from that.
Right.
Drivers losing money, companies losing money. No one wins when drivers getting sent home early. So if that is occurring now, that you're going to see that stop occurring at anywhere near the level of frequency it might be happening now. So first and foremost, the bias is towards keeping you moving and not doing that. But that's the intent. We're not going to have you in a situation where you're going home early and not getting money, but we're going to make sure you're whole.
Well, and I think that, again, as we talk about an hourly associate that drives, what that speaks to, Manolo, and that's a great question. Manolo's out of Arizona, and that's a great
I remember Manolo.
Yeah, it's a hustle. It's a group that really hustles. So, what that speaks to the change in behavior that we have to have in terms of our urgency. And so we're well aware of that. We're working through change management at all levels in terms of what we have to do to ensure that we are understanding and recognizing you are now paid hourly. And again, we need to ensure that we are taking quick actions to ensure you're moving.
That's a great call out. And I mean, because every functional area that we have, especially here in Green Bay, is aware of what this pay package looks like and what it means to the drivers.
Right.
So the rail team, and then Adam is here, he leads the rail team, is aware of this pay package. You know, our planning team is aware of this pay package, customer service. So everyone is aware, and their orientation is to, if that driver is on line 4, I need to do everything that I can do within my area of expertise to get that driver on line 3.
Well, as an example, we had, was it every associate go through valuing the driver's time? And I'm not getting the training name correct, but we set every associate through a training session where it focused on the driver's time, the impact of delays, and that sort of thing, so that we could get it in folks' minds and focused as we move forward into this pay package. So we're well aware of that. We're focusing on that. And I believe we are going to take quick action in terms of helping to move things forward, understanding where the gaps and the delays are, and then quickly addressing those and moving things in the right direction.
You know, we've also, equipped our driver leaders with better technology to be able to see, more readily when a driver is on line 4 and how long that driver's been on line 4. So that's going to, prompt that action even that much more. But I also encourage drivers, if you're on line 4 longer than you should be, don't sit and wait. Send that call in, and we want to send that SOS message out, so we can jump on that and get you back on line 3, because no one wants to see you sit on line 4.
No, and it makes me think of Rate My Location, right? And we're going to continue to plug Rate My Location, because if there's a specific customer, specific location, vendor, whatever the case may be, where we're seeing 1 stars, 4-hour delays, 5-hour delays, we're going to use that, and we're going to quickly continue to move that. And that's why, one of the reasons why we've been encouraging Rate My Location.
Right.
I think you guys are probably sick of hearing it, because we're continually telling you, rate my location, rate my location, rate my location.
And I'm going to consistently hit this drum beat when you think about line 4. Line 4 is a shock absorber to get you back on line 3. Yeah. So that's how we think about line
minutes
4.
matter, right?
Absolutely. Every minute matters.
I think that was the training. Minutes matter.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I think associates are going to go through that again, or are already started going through it, to make sure that we're using time to the maximum.
Right.
I don't have any more current questions out there. Got a couple of shout outs. So Louis Lafayette says hello.
Hello,
hey, Louis. How you doing?
Kurt Ditto says hello from Oshkosh, so right in the backyard here. And Andrea Sanders Purdue is just happy with the information. She said it's great information, so thanks for sharing.
Good. And we're looking forward to talking to you live too when we get out in the field to see how you've felt about the program once you're in it.
Yeah.
So no additional questions at this time.
Michael Hare, hello from Chambersburg Intermodal.
Hey, Michael.
What's going to happen on the days that we have to drive around looking for an empty? Would that still be considered under a load?
Yes, and you'll be on line 3 as well, so that you'll be getting paid for that.
Let's see.
So if it gets slow from a question standpoint, we can bring Adam on, and he can speak to some of the kind of enhancement and changes in progress along the Western Rail Provider change, the UP change. Mm-hmm. And then maybe at that point we'll have some more questions come in. But this is Adam Octon. He is the VP of Rail Relations. He owns the various rail providers and the relationships. And we had him in the wings here in case we had some UP questions. But since we have some lulls here, for lack of a better term, we'll have him come on and just kind of speak to some of the things we've been seeing and doing and the progress that has been made thus far. Adam?
Well, good afternoon, good evening. I appreciate this time to talk to everyone, and please ask your questions. And certainly we'll be out in the field. Different people from the rail team, we've been spending a lot of time going to different locations. We're in Chicago tomorrow and the next day. Richard and myself will be in the Pacific Northwest in a few weeks. So if you have more questions that come up at that time, please come out. And I'm also going to plug Rate My Location for the rail locations, because we do give that to the railroads, and they are acting on it. Now, it may take a little bit of time, but they are interested in that just as much as our customers are, because they understand that driver efficiency is the key to our success together. So I want to start out reiterating, if you haven't heard, or telling you again why we're making the switch to the Union Pacific. And it's really a couple of reasons that center around one main reason. And that one main reason is we believe Union Pacific is poised to grow with us to enable our goal of doubling by 2030. Okay? There's a couple of reasons for that. First and foremost, we'll be the only asset-based provider. So the provider who has their own chassis, their own containers, and does a very high amount of drays with company drivers that will use Union Pacific and CSX. Okay? The other reason is because those two railroads fit very well together. Their rails are better aligned than BNSF CSX or Union Pacific Norfolk Southern. So we saw that as a great and powerful combination from a service design standpoint. And really how that manifests itself is two ways. First is in the amount of steel wheels that those two railroads have between each other. And what a steel wheel then equates to is a more consistent, reliable, and faster transit for our customers. So differentiation in the market. And secondly, the other thing is both railroads have gone through precision scheduled railroading. It's a continuous improvement program that the rails have that really brings a better service to the market. And it also improves their schedules. Both CSX and Union Pacific have consistent day of week departures, which will lead to a better customer experience and more consistent groundings for our drivers to both in-gate and out-gate volume. So we're really excited about this change. The other thing that really excites us is UP's commitment to improvement. I'm sure many of you have seen improvements at their ramps. They're continuing to do that throughout this year. And there are a lot of things that they're doing to make our driver experience better, both in their app and their physical infrastructure. And something that came from our drivers was the Find My Empty functionality in the UP Go app. When we started using Union Pacific, that was something we heard loud and clear from our drivers, because we don't know where the empties are. We have to drive around and find them. They've added that technology to their app. I know there's some problems with the seal number and the length and some of the information we need to add from shipment ID that they're working on to improve that. The other thing we hear a lot about is some of the hours at their ramps.
Yep.
Union Pacific currently has 20 of their ramps, 20 of their 27 ramps at 24/7. And with the exception of the ramp that they don't own, which they can't control, which is Tucson, by the time we fully implement at the end of this year, all of the ramps that we will use will be 24/7. So that's another piece of feedback we've provided to them, which came from this group that we were able to change with UP. Tammy, are there any questions that have come through?
Well, one of them came through about the Seattle ramp and the hours there. So I think you answered that one.
Yes, I do not know off the top of my head the specific date that they'll be going to 24/7. I know they will be, and we will have that soon and let the fleet know.
Yeah, and one of the other questions was around the technology there. Are they doing anything with that?
Yes, they are doing quite a bit with technology. Not only improvements to the app that I talked about earlier, they're upgrading their kiosks. There's a few places that they have kiosk issues that they know they have to update. And the thing we're really excited about is their gate technology that they're looking to implement throughout their network. Mm-hmm. Now, this won't happen in all of our places by the time we implement, but this year we're already operating in San Antonio. And I believe this is out on YouTube where you can actually find a video of this, or we might have sent it out to the fleet, if I remember correctly, where as you pull through the AGS, the cameras read the tractor number and the SNLU number, and you don't even stop at the gate. You slowly roll through it like you would an automated toll booth. That's implemented in San Antonio. I believe it'll implement in Salt Lake, Memphis, and Dallas this year, and they'll continue to implement that at other ramps throughout their network. Yeah. I believe it takes about 11 seconds to get through the ramp or through the gate in San Antonio. Wow. So it's something we're really excited about.
Any information on Winter Haven?
Winter Haven, so that's in the east. We'll stay with CSX. We are working with CSX because I know that we've had a lot of driver delays there because of the crane issues and also the service issues as they've been connecting with Jacksonville. And there's been a lot of problems with the Jacksonville ramp as they're struggling to find labor there. So they're working a plan And they've done some things to hire more people in Jacksonville to create a more fluid experience in Winter Haven. We continue to stay in communication, and I know it's been an issue, and we'll get more updates out on Winter Haven as well as a takeaway.
So not specific to UP, but will Schneider be looking to expand intermodal operations into any other markets beyond the markets we're currently in today?
So one of the things we really liked about UP is the footprint they have compared to BNSF. We have expanded in certain markets already. We've added Salt Lake City, which BNSF doesn't serve. We've added San Antonio last month. We will be adding Reno next month. As the Stockton drivers, I'm sure will tell you, Reno is a real pain for them to get through the mountains there. So that'll be something that's more effective for our organization to ramp directly in Reno. We do continually look at other locations, but we have to have enough density and business demand in order to open a ramp there. So this is something we're constantly looking at. I can't say what the next ramp will be because we haven't figured that out yet, but I'm sure there are places that we will open sometime in the future.
And our ultimate goal is to double our size.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Michael Hare would like to know how the change out west with
Yes.
UP will affect the freight volumes on the East Coast, Chambersburg in particular.
Absolutely. So that connection I talked about between UP and CSX is going to enable our transcontinental freight. So freight that hits both railroads, and will provide a product to the market I talked about earlier that will have better consistency, better service, and better transit than what we have today. Our models have shown that we are going to grow in the East just as much as we're going to grow in the West. And that's something that also helped us make this decision.
Let's see what else. This is not specific to intermodal, but question about the driver ambassador role, Robert. Since intermodal is such a small part of Schneider, will they be able to have a representative in that driver ambassador program?
Intermodal will absolutely have an ambassador. Actually, they'll have more than one. So the goal is to have about 10 drivers, 10 to 12. And we're saying that, some of you might say, well, that's kind of fuzzy. But what we're trying to establish is what the right number is. Is it 6-man truckload, 4 intermodal, 3 bulk, whatever the case may be. So that's why that number is kind of a bit ambiguous, but absolutely. Best case scenario, we'd love to have, a West Coast, an East Coast, a Midwest, and a Southeast. But it's going to be based on the candidates. It's going to be based on the qualifications. But yes, Intermodal will have more than one and probably 2 or 3.
Awesome. Corey Hood wants to clarification on the line 4, line 3. Mm-hmm. Will the times come directly from the driver logs? And if so, will there be a time limit on every load?
Yeah, they will come from the logs, or said differently, they come through our platform science technology. So one and the same essentially. So that's how you'll get the your line 4 capture. And what was the other part of that question? I'm sorry.
Is there going to be a time limit on the loads?
Time limit on the loads.
Not sure, but I'm wondering
3 hours
if,
to do one load or something like that.
No,
the answer is no.
Yeah, whenever you complete that load, then it'll register on your pay estimator, so you'll see it at that time. I'm hoping that answers your question. Probably.
No dominoes, no 30 minutes, right? We're not going to say this load should take you this long, right?
There's too many variables, I would imagine. There's traffic.
It's whenever you actualize it, that's when it.
And the last thing we'd want someone to do is compromise safety in order to hit an artificial time.
Right.
Any information on more chassis? When are more chassis going to come in?
Yeah, I'll start with that one if you want to tag along, Adam. But yeah, we're expecting to see more of an influx of chassis coming in like around the Q4, late Q3 time period. And the reason why we can't get them in sooner is because of supply chain challenges that we're dealing with right now. But we know that that chassis fluidity is key to the success of our network. And we're doing everything we can to keep, the chassis fluid as we continue to bring in containers, knowing that relief is coming later this year around Q3, Q4.
I just want to put a plug in another one for UP and why we're excited about this. All of UP schedules are either 6 days a week or 7 days a week. For those of you out west know that the BN trains don't operate like that today. the time we see from when we in-gate a container to when it departs on Union Pacific is about half of what it is on BNSF. What that would effectively do is add 1,000 chassis to our fleet out west. So not only are we adding chassis to our overall water level, but we're doing something next year that will make us much more efficient with our chassis as well.
See that velocity and that throughput.
Absolutely.
Question, Northwest Ohio Rail Yard is CSX and BNSF, the same yard. Will we still be using BSNF, just not as much?
So BNSF does market a service in and out of Northwest Ohio, but the railroad is actually just CSX. So they run a joint service in there. Union Pacific runs the same joint service in and out of Northwest Ohio as BNSF. So the growth that I talked about that we'll see out east, we expect to see that in Northwest Ohio as well, even though it's technically in the Midwest. I consider it the East because it's CSX. But that is a service that is operated by both BN and UP combined with CSX.
So the Facebook chat is on a public page. So we get company drivers as well as prospective drivers.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of prospective drivers asking questions on the chat today.
Very
How
good.
is their experience? How would their experience affect them if they chose to come to work for Schneider and had experience under them? How does it work if they're brand new? So I don't know if there's any information you can share around that, but there's a lot of questions. So a lot of people are looking to come to Intermodal.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to take it.
Yeah.
But when you think about the line 3 again, it starts off with the experience level that you have. So if you're a 5-year driver, if you're a 7-year driver, 2-year driver, 6-month driver, that's factored into your line 3 compensation from the beginning.
So not just Schneider time.
Right, absolutely.
Experience overall.
Your experience in the business, in the industry. And then on top of that, for folks that are here with us, is when we start to capture those other things.
And how will production be rewarded?
Through line 3 compensation.
There we go.
Yep. When you're rolling, you're earning more.
And shipment pay.
Absolutely.
And
Shipment
pay
pay too. That's another service for the production. Yeah.
People are asking for the video in other formats. So Drew, that's kind of a question for you. Are we going to save this chat somewhere else? If people don't have access to Facebook.
Well, it's on YouTube as well. Oh, well.
Download it onto chat.
We'll look at that. We're not sure. So it's great information is the point. People know a lot of others that aren't on Facebook, and they feel that this information would be valuable.
Driver referrals.
Yep. Open for business.
So we've got an individual asking about what would the expected annual pay be, and that I would imagine would run the gamut.
It would. I mean, it really. I mean, if you're talking about I'll talk about 2 components. The line 3. I mean, the longevity bonus. Again, that's 3%, and then there's no cap on that. But really, to be honest with you, how much you make, from an annual standpoint, is how efficiently you work while you're working, and how often you make yourself available to work. I mean,
it's going to vary market to market as well.
It will, and obviously there's the line 3 compensation that you're getting every time you're running. The line 4 is covering you, so every hour that you're working, is essentially covered.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, how much you're making yourself available to work and how effective you are while you work.
That's it for active questions right now.
Okay. Well, and again, this is a kind of a special event, so we don't have to go the full hour if there are not additional questions. So we'll take one more look, and if there aren't additional questions, we will close out. But we definitely want to thank you for your time joining us again on an off-cycle Facebook chat, but we definitely wanted to get the information out to you. For those of you that haven't met Richard, being able to see the name in the face, because he has been out to some markets, but probably not all the markets yet.
Not quite all.
Couple more.
Okay, so we have
So
a couple more
Richard
coming in.
Gonzalez wants to know, how will ramp pulls pay under this new package?
So you'll get shipment pay if you're in the local or daily time and home configuration, and then if you're in the regional configuration, you're still going to get the line 3 compensation associated with the time that you were running that ramp pull.
Okay.
And that shipment pay is the same for a load or a ramp
Absolutely.
pull or a chassis.
Absolutely, no more differentiation between what type of work assignment you get. It's universal shipment pay.
And then
Excuse me.
just more of a bless you comment than question. Find your empty in UP doesn't give you an option, give you any empty options. I'm not sure what that means.
So I guess it would depend on the market. If we
Okay.
don't have empty containers at that ramp, it will not show any empty any containers there. I would be interested to know which location this is, though, because if there is an error or if there's something going on, we'd like to research and fix it. So you can respond and let us know where, or let your DTL know so they can get with the rail team. We'll gladly look into that.
Yeah, if you can post where, we'll follow up with you on that. Good on the questions, Tammy?
Good on the questions, but a lot of drivers said thanks for taking time. Great information. Appreciate you taking time out of your evenings to spend it with them. Joseph Morning loves the new scenery.
We are Schneider.
I would like to say one thing, though. I mean, I know the drivers are thanking us for our time, but truly, we want to thank you for, when you think about this pay package, it was a byproduct of what you told us. So thank you for the feedback. Thank you for trusting us with that feedback. Yeah. And I really look forward to hearing what your perspective is and what your perception is, and as you start to experience the benefits of this program. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I want to thank Adam and Richard for being here and sharing that information with you. Again, this is the kind of stuff that we know you're interested in, the kind of stuff that impacts you. But it also makes me think about, again, we talk about feedback and those interactions and sharing information with us. We do listen to it. We can't change everything, but we do take it into account, whether it's through Richard being out in the field, social relations doing a climate assessment, through social media. We do take that and we consider it. We talk about it. We discuss it. And then if we can make changes, we do make changes. So along those lines, continue to bring the feedback, whether it's the UP feedback, because we have some time here, again, to make things incrementally better until we hit that go point. And the pay package, again, you're gonna get that message from your ops folks. You're going to see other leadership out a month after, and we're interested in that feedback always. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your focus and your interest, obviously. Take care out there. Be safe. We'll see you next month.
God bless.
Thank you.